Allow me to introduce our panelists. You had their voices, now it's time for you to see their faces. We have Dr. Otene Omolo, who is a member of parliament for Rarieda. We do have also with us Aaron Cheriot, who is the senator for Kericho. And we do have Boni Khalwale, who is the deputy leader of Ford Kenya, and also the former senator of Kakamega. We have Kimani Umatangi with us as well, who is a senator from Kiambu. We're eagerly waiting for Jacob Medio to join us as well this morning. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
You had a happy Easter? You enjoyed?
Indeed.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Right, so today we want to discuss this handshake, and we have the president recently from Windsor describing as petty and selfish sentiments by his deputy William Ruto and his allies that opposition leader Raila Odinga is out to destroy the Jubilee Party. Let's hear your reaction, Aaron Cheriot. If I may just quote what he said, quote unquote, as leaders, we have become petty in our thinking. We have become egoistic about our positions and value our pride more than we value being practical. President Kenyatta said. He indicated that he finds it strange that while the two of them have been trying to bring people together, other leaders have been going to funerals and weddings to say that the handshake is all about political machinations and 2022 succession politics. Aaron Cheriot.
Good morning, Kenya. And, good morning, Dibal.
You sound like you want to recite a poem.
No, no.
Preliminary. Mr. Speaker, sir.
I want to present a poem. No, no, no. Renowned leadership trainer John Maxwell once remarked that as a leader, if you're leading people and you look behind that there's no one behind you, then you're merely taking a walk and not leading anyone. I think on this issue of the handshake, unfortunately, my party leader is taking a walk and not leading us as Jubilee together with him. And it's really unfortunate that we have to discuss this in open, but give credit where it's due. I think Raila Odinga, immediately after the handshake, took time. I don't know whether they understood it or not, but clearly many may not have understood it, many of his supporters, but at least give him some credit for effort, that he called together his ODM brigade and tried to explain what the handshake is all about. As Jubilee party members, and these are the elected members of parliament, we have never had an opportunity to sit down with our party leader to discuss what the handshake is all about. And I think that is where the confusion comes in. It may be a very noble venture, as the president keeps on trying to explain. But you see, when you explain to your fellow leaders alongside whom you elected in TV screens and are not willing to sit down and have a discussion with them so that they raise whatever concerns they have about it, then it becomes a bit difficult in terms of how people are going to perceive it. Because genuinely speaking, and this I speak with a very open mind to it, that by and large, while people may not necessarily have anything so strongly against the handshake, many people don't seem to understand what it's all about. We went into a political contest, we won as a party, then eventually before we know it, we have a Jubilee party leader with the leader of ODM. They have a handshake, and before you know it, he's now a key, how would I put it, he's now part and parcel of us in government. We've seen a few of his allies appointed into positions in office without a proper brief. That's why you have people in government offices who continue to execute the agenda of the opposition while serving in the same government. You know, this kind of double speak and confusion that the handshake has brought is what many of us consistently continue to speak against it and say, until such a time as when we will be able to understand it, we shall not just give credence to it and say, oh, we support it because it has brought calm. Calm for what? You know, we must also be sincere with ourselves and say, how does it address the current pressing challenges that Kenyans continue to face. There are millions of young people that are without jobs. There are many young people that are in businesses that continue to struggle because you cannot access a market. You're being told that the things that you're importing are fake. We only want original things. You know, those kind of challenges. Who is going to do, for example, the work of the opposition leader that Raila Odinga and his company are supposed to be doing it? Yet we know for the last 1 year, we have virtually been turned into a one-party state. Look at building bridges initiative, for example. How can you say it is building bridges yet? And I say this with a lot of reservation because, you know, Dibal, building bridges is led by 2 of my colleagues in the Senate.
Yes.
That is Amos Wako and Yusuf Haji, members of the Senate that I hold in the highest esteem. But I must say this, that you see, the reason why building bridges will find it so difficult, one, to get the kind of credibility that is needed, is that it is a political process that involves only 2 key political players. It doesn't involve the rest. It will have been, if, in my opinion, a better way of executing the Building Bridges initiative would have been a more consultative approach, perhaps using representatives from the various parliamentary political parties, such that you have the Wiper leader nominate a few people, you have Ford Kenya nominate a few people. But so long as it remains to be a list that was drawn up by the president and Raila Odinga, I do not think it will fly in the face of many of those who view this alliance with a lot of suspicion. Therefore, those are the challenges that we continue to have with the handshake. And until such a time as when the president will find time to sit down, for example, with his Jubilee Party brigade and explain to them what it is about, many of us will never give it the kind of support that he wants us to give it.
Right. Let's hear your reaction also, Tena Molo. Kenyatta describing, President Kenyatta describing it, you know, what he terms as petty and selfish sentiments by his Deputy President William Ruto and his allies, that the opposition leader Raila Odinga is out to destroy the ruling Jubilee Party.
First of all, let me condole with the Moi family for the loss of Jonathan. I think he was a man he was his own man.
Yes.
May the Lord rest his soul in peace. And may I also condemn the incidences and deaths in Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka as well.
It tells us that we must remain eternally vigilant, because the more we think we've emasculated all this, you know, what I would call terrorist and satanic forces,
yes,
the more they keep rearing their ugly head. Having said that, I'm surprised at Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, because he has lamented and he's gone on a long streak of lamentation and done everything except answer your question. And your question is, do we agree with the president's sentiments in regard to his deputy? The answer is yes. And I think the president was spot on. There's nothing new that President Kenyatta said there that has not been said, except he has never said it before. But we've always said it. And the position as enunciated by President Kenyatta, which is true, is that Deputy President William Ruto is continuously undermining the efforts of the president. And I've said in this show before that you are elected to deputize the president. The day or moment you realize you cannot deputize because you do not agree, then the honorable thing is to exit that seat, because you cannot deputize what you do not agree with. And it is clear that Deputy President William Ruto's sole effort is to sabotage the president's effort, and in this respect, in respect of the handshake. Secondly, I mean, it is interesting and surprising when my colleague and friend Aaron Cheruiyot sits here and laments at length about the handshake. And increasingly, I hear a number of members of parliament doing the same. The interesting point on it is that when the handshake happened, and in the resultant occasion, the Building Bridges Initiative team was constituted, that matter was brought both to the Senate and to the National Assembly. In both houses, there was overwhelming support. No one raised any of the issues that Aaron Cheruiyot is now raising now. And the question is, if we had the opportunity to raise those issues then, why didn't you raise them? Because you are elected as a representative of the people to speak on such issues. You cannot then later come and start lamenting in a TV show what you could have raised legitimately on the floor of Parliament. I think what has happened and what has changed is that the DP's political fortunes are dwindling for reasons beyond the handshake. And for that reason, his supporters, like Aaron Cheriot, like Halwale, and like recently, some of the new recruits like Agostino Neto, believe that the only thing to do is to focus and attack the handshake. And especially because they cannot attack the president directly, they must get the fall guy, and the fall guy here is Raila Amolo Odinga. When Aaron Cheriot says that the BBI was drawn by President Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga and it is not inclusive and all that, they never said that then. And he fails to note that the Gazette notice that constituted BBI was signed by President Uhuru Kenyatta as the President of the Republic of Kenya. And in that capacity, therefore, it's supposed, and it suggests that he was acting as the person who was sworn in as the president. Whether duly elected or not is a different matter. So you also see that the language of the supporters of the deputy president are becoming more bitter and more brazen. You have seen what people like my friend Oscar Sudi have been saying. You have seen what the deputy president himself has been saying. So all this, I think, are as a result of dwindling political fortunes. That said, thirdly, there's all this talk of, now Raila, has stopped being the leader of official opposition. There's no opposition. Let us be clear. First of all, there is nothing in the law as leader of official opposition. There's no such thing. And even in parliament, there's nothing like opposition. What the law provides for is that everybody goes to be elected and hopes that the party in which they are will win. And that whoever is their presidential candidate will also capture that presidential seat. But once the elections are done, then the numbers, once they are counted, then it determines which side is the majority and which side is the minority.
Thank you.
Now, once that is done, the space for opposing or checking government is not exclusive to a certain section of this country. If Aaron Cheriot thinks that there's now space on what he calls the leader of official opposition, his leader or any other person is free to assume that seat and become that vocal check on government, because there is no law that stops you from opposing anything or from being vocal. So I think that the Building Bridges initiative and the handshake brought a cessation of hostilities, which was important. The BBI initiative is a good thing, even though there's a lot that they need to do, because time is running out, and I've pointed that out before. They need to consult. Even as they consult, they need to start telling the country what they have done, what they are doing, and where they are going, so that we move together with them. I think that they need to start thinking of winding up so quickly, because the more we move closer to 2022, the more difficult it will become to complete their work.
Right. So let's hear from Boni Halwale. Do you think what is headlining the front page of the Daily Nation today is actually auguring well with the spirit of a handshake, right? You can just see it on the screen as well. You think William Ruto is under siege? Because also from some of your statements, it seems that you can actually agree with that particular splash today.
Quite honestly, the deputy president is not under siege. He's under the spotlight. He's under the microscope, as is expected of a front runner in a critical office like to be the president of the Republic of Kenya. I will not have any sleepless night, as one of the people advising him now, for the reason that we expect this to become even murkier as we go along. Because in politics, especially in regard of such a high office, you don't get it on a silver platter. My second comment is on your first question in respect of the president's remarks. I don't know whether the president was making those remarks because he was angry or he was making those remarks because he was disappointed. If he was either of the above, I want to urge him to take time and understand the people who are having the contrary view. He is looking at the handshake in good faith that he will get what he expected to get from the handshake. Yes, he expected to get from the handshake an environment of peace and tranquility for him to transact government business and specifically push for the Agenda 4 items. But the guys who are having question marks on the handshake are helping the president to see the handshake through the prism of one Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And in his prism, the former Prime Minister wishes to use the handshake either to wreck Jubilee completely, the way he has wrecked many other political parties in this country, or he's looking at the handshake as an opportunity for him to endear himself to the voting bloc, the traditional constituency of President Uhuru, so that he gets acceptance and eventually votes from them in 2022. He should take it easy. My third point is to express my disappointment with my brother Amolo Otiende. Amolo, what do you think you're doing to the public when a member of parliament like you, a lawyer, even holding a constitution in his hand, you tell the country that there's nothing like leader of the opposition? My goodness, you know very well that we are operating under a presidential system. In a presidential system, the equivalent of the leader of the opposition is called the leader of the minority. In a parliamentary system, the leader of the opposition is called the leader of the opposition. So you cannot mislead people simply because your party leader is now in the miasma of not knowing whether he's in the opposition or whether he is in the government. It's important that, especially for younger members who are watching this panel now, we also use the opportunity to explain how systems work. Finally, my brother Amolo Otiende, every week you come justifying how the deputy president is not fit, how he is undermining the president, and how he should leave office. You are the same one who holds the constitution more times than any other Kenyan who appears on this panel. And you know that Article 150 of the Constitution of Kenya specifically gives Kenyans an opportunity to remove the deputy president. Since that opportunity is there, why haven't you used it? What stops you, if you have grounds, to remove the deputy president, to move in line with Article 150 that gives you an opportunity to remove him? If you think he has undermined the president, why have you not moved on impeachment? For example, it gives you that opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
If you think, as your cousin Jacoy Medio will say soon after I finish, that the deputy president is a thief, if you think he's a thief, the same Article 150 also tells you that if he breaks the law, any written law,
thank you.
Why haven't you moved to court to ask for him to be prosecuted?
All right, I hope Otiende Omolo, you're taking mental note of that.
We'll answer.
Yeah, we'll answer that.
Problem.
Let's hear from Kimani Matangi. And today we actually want to be fair to Kimani Matangi. You'll have all the time today.
He always has all the time.
And I saw also some of you was actually reacting to this on Twitter and saying, oh yes, we're being unfair to Kimani Matangi. Matangi is the only sane person on this panel.
At least for once, Dibal, thank you for acknowledging that you have been unfair to me.
Yeah, I've done a poor job. I apologize.
Well, Dibal, let me first take the opportunity to say good morning to Kenyans and also send my message of condolences first to the several Kenyan families of the young Kenyans who lost their lives over the weekend in Arusha. in that bizarre and freak accident during the street motor racing. Some of them are young people actually from my county in Kiambu. And I want to condole with the families. Let me also condole and send my message to the Moy family. They've lost one of their sons. And JT, as he was popularly known, is one of the few people who excited us during those days of motor racing, during the safari rally, as one of the African drivers, alongside Njiru, who used to then occupy the headlines in racing. Dibal, let me also propose that in future, in this forum, in our panel here, can we have a punishment for latecomers, like Jacoyo Mediwo,
Yes.
who come and interrupt when somebody is in flow of their discussion. For example, you saw like how he was disturbing Otiende Amolo, trying to sneak in. So I would propose anybody who is late for more than 15 minutes, let's have a basic punishment. He can kneel out there for a few minutes.
With hands
And then be admitted. Otherwise, what is the justification that he should be late? But anyway,
and he wants a fair share of time. And he's come late. Yes?
You know. Anyway, let me make my comments on what the topic is this morning. And as I make my comments, Debal, let me first explain to Kenyans what is the history of the handshake. And the handshake, I mean, the history of the handshake in as far as we are concerned as human beings. You know, Debal, the handshake was invented by the human race many years ago in the BCs, before Christ. And in the invention of the handshake between the human species, the handshake first originally was not actually palm to palm. The handshake was at the wrist. And the reason why it was at the wrist was because then the human species intended first, when they greet you and grasp your wrist, to feel for daggers, if you have a dagger, to attack them. And then it was modernized a little bit and improved by the medieval Romans to include now the actual shaking, to dislodge any arms you may be hiding in your clothes. and specifically, it was targeting the right hand, because the right hand is the one that bears arms. I mean, so in its history, in its making, the handshake is supposed and has been a sign of putting down or laying down of arms. and so, you know, then alongside the stand that I've always taken, Debal, that as long as this handshake stays true to what it was originally intended to be or what it was said to have been, even now including in the real meaning of what a handshake is and its origins, then there's nothing wrong with the handshake, as long as it remains true. And see, some of the disturbing things are these Debal. One, for example, like when the president made the remarks when he was at Windsor, then the headlines the following day were all screaming that the president now answers Ruto in public. And why was the imagination, for example, when he says that it is the DP Ruto that he's answering? And this is where, personally, I see the mischief by the press. Because when he was saying that, he was expressing himself, of course, frustrations alongside things that have been said, but also trying to undo some misunderstandings that have been there. I would want to probably pose questions that we should think about, if you ask me, Demal. For example, who said that because of the handshake, that Ruto and Raila should be friends? That is not what the handshake was supposed to be. I mean, it didn't mean that because there's been handshake, now they should become buddies, or they should become political allies. The handshake still reverts to what it was. Who said that for them, the DP running his course now to do his work as the deputy president and knowing that in 2022 he has ambitions to run for president, which are legitimate, and Raila Odinga, who may, although has not said, may want to run for president, then, I mean, why would anyone want to suppress the normal human instinct of fending and holding your territory for yourself and ensuring that if you have a potential rival, you mark them? I mean, because, for example, what the DP would be doing is to ensure that he's clear and safe, and when he arrives at the destination and come the time to contend, that he knows who his rivals are. And if Raila Odinga is one of them, then he's ready for him, and vice versa. And so I see most of the undoing, most of the bad press, and popularity of the handshake around the mischief of people who want to drive that political agenda and drive and especially create that wedge inside Jubilee. Because if the handshake, for all its intent and purposes, and I've heard the president say that, I've heard the DP say that himself, that as long as this handshake is about what it is said to be, then we have no problem with it. It's about cooling the country. And so, Dibal, I don't think that I want to overread more than it should be. That indeed, let the handshake be. Let it bring peace to the country. Let us walk the streets safely without throwing stones. Let us not have political temperatures rise such that our economy is tested and sometimes even messed up because of politics. Let us have sober discussions alongside political issues on this country. But then when it comes to the ambitions of, for example, the deputy president, if the handshake for any reason would be used to be an advantage or to take advantage of his intention, then that would be wrong. And that is the point at which most Kenyans would disagree with it, because then it would amount to shortchanging him. As long as it remains to Raila Odinga what it is, and not an ante he would use as an advantage to run in 2022, then it remains a good thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, we want to take a short break right now. When we circle back, we continue with the discussion with our panelists, looking at a raft of issues as far as also the price of unga is concerned. In 10 days, it will be 130, and we're not getting clarity from the government yet as far as, the availability of maize in the country is concerned. Some say that it is not there. Some are saying that we have our national strategic reserves, right, full and bringing over with maize. But people are questioning, is this a double speak from government? We have economist Joe saying Senator Matangi should advise the president to stop taking new loans. We need accountability for the current loans, the usage and contribution to GDP. Food security should top the list, not just stamping and swearing. Kenya needs less talk, more action, Matangi. And also we have Ogubuefi Ezeudu saying, come on, this is so frustrating at Dibala Nea, NTV Kenya, and at AMLive. Look into your servers. Live stream ain't working. I can see, yes, there's a bit of a problem with the digital today. So we'll be trying to rectify that as well and see what is happening and on the digital desk as well. So I beg your pardon for that. That is Ozeudi. We'll take a short break right now. When we come back, we continue with more. But remember, you can head over to our Twitter handle, AMLive NTV is our Twitter handle, AMLive NTV is our profile name on Facebook, and 206-86 hours. Welcome back. You're watching People and Politics here on AMLive. We continue with a conversation about the handshake conundrum and a raft of other issues as well, as far as the politics of the week has been. And also joining us is Jacob Midio, who's being told that he should come here and kneel before us and confess why he came late. Jacob, today you slept through the alarm.
Actually, I did. But
where were you last night?
No, just actually
the ways of a night. It depends where I actually slept yesterday.
You should ask me where I was the other night. Those utterances by William Ruto about Luos are very annoying.
Which ones?
The one that calling us stone throwers and
that one I've not heard. That one I've not heard yet.
It is in a newspaper.
Read
the Nation.
We will look at that. We'll look at that. But before, we actually saw this editorial cartoon, and we were eagerly waiting for you also to comment, because this is your cousin, right? Is this a true depiction of your cousin on our screens? Look at the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Is it here you're shocked or yes, you're actually confirming?
No, yes, that's a true depiction. It's a struggler. He destroyed, he brings down things that hold Kenya down. Eh? He's a serious man politically. You know, Boni Halwale has just said that I will call Ruto a thief in a few minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, he's trying to get rid of the thief. You see what he's doing? He's trying to get rid of the thief. You know, call a spade a spade. Why do you need the handshake if you don't get rid of the thief? One of the issues about the handshake, really, the main issue, is about undoing the thief. And who cannot do it if Raila is not the one?
All right. Are you actually properly deciphering this particular editorial cartoon?
I am looking at it.
Right? But we can't see any handshake there. This is purely
No.
right honorable
We
Raila
don't even
Odinga.
see Ruto there.
Yeah.
You would not get there if
Let's
there
have
was
the
no
cartoon,
thief.
please. Yeah.
You would not get there. You see that what do you call it? That branch of a tree.
Yes.
He is the only one. It just shows the only one. It's because you are seeing your own things. But what I'm seeing is a person who is not like sharing his space with anybody. He's the guy who can do it. I used the opportunity to answer Boni.
So you cannot see KANU there, the cockerel, that is the logo of KANU. You cannot see also Jubilee Party. You cannot see those colors.
No. He keeps doing it. He was in KANU, Secretary General. He was in. He is now disabling Jubilee, the thieves in Jubilee, and he is doing very well for Kenya. That's what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. You know, Boni says William Samoei has every right to be a candidate. I support that. I don't agree with anybody who says William shouldn't be a candidate. But I am saying when he is finally a candidate, we will say he's a thief, because he is.
You know, those are very strong verbiage that you're using, or even term, if you don't have any evidence to actually table on this particular show as well, right? So I would love you to also to just maybe redact that particular statement or provide evidence.
Or substantiate.
No, it
Substantiate
is
as well.
Boni who asked me on this show just a few minutes ago to substantiate. But it is Boni that I follow his words. Boni is the one who asked about how Dolphins hotels were bought. Boni is the one who asked about he can only raise 50,000 shillings on a weekend. And why is one person whose salary is 1 million shillings a month spending 100 million? It is Boni who is in court with William Ruto. It is not us. It is Boni to substantiate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we hear from Aaron Cheriot? I think this talk about handshake now should taper off and yeah, we get off to some substantive discussion.
But there are some things I need to answer.
Yes.
No, but
No, after you, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There are things I'll need to answer.
You will come to you.
Halwale and once you're
Let's
done.
hear from Aaron Cheriot briefly.
You know, it's increasingly becoming unfair to the show. Sometimes hosting Jakoyo, when he comes in late,
I only came today late. What do you mean always? When was the last time I was late?
then the things that he says, sometimes you wonder if he's sober. And you wonder whether the reason why he's late is because maybe he may have overindulged and didn't wake up in good frame of mind. You know, Jakoyo, some things you say also, they demean your stature. Because,
like what?
Because first of all, your age does not allow you to speak the way you speak on this show. I would expect those young boys that I see on you see those street political places like what you'd find here on Moi Avenue, those vendors, those kind of arguments are what I'd expect to find there, but not of somebody like you who knows very well that for you to accuse anyone, you must at least have the decency or the courtesy to table what it is that they have stolen from you. But for you to go into a diatribe every other week, oh, so-and-so has stolen from me, yet you never show anything that he has stolen from you, first of all, is primitive, and also not be standing over a man of your stature, Jacoyo. Therefore, I request you as your friend. I know you will not heed my advice, but it's just a humble request. Secondly, you know, this issue of the handshake debacle, they have had the very veiled attempt to excuse Kenyans of common sense by my good friend Otiende as to why, we all should fall hook, line, and sinker and support the handshake. I want to tell Otiende, and I've told him many occasions on this panel, that please understand where some of us come from. If where you come from, there is only one vote and one mind that is supposed to function, where for whatever thing they do, the rest of you have to follow through and agree to it and try to look for whatever reason to support it. The rest of us come from very democratic spaces where we are allowed to exercise free thought. And sometimes, not everything that I say on this panel, I have got to agree with any particular leader in this country, not the president, not his deputy, not even those that I consider to be politically senior to be. If, for whatever reason, I feel that I do not agree, because let me ask you, because Otiende keeps on reminding us, so it has done good for the country. What is the philosophical background of a handshake? What is it supposed to achieve in line with our constitution? You love quoting this document, Otiende. Where is it featured in our constitution? Yet we know we are supposed to go to a political contest, and after the contest, there will be winners, there will be losers. Those who win are supposed to be given the space to govern. Those who lose, you either critique the work of those who are in government, or go ahead and fend for yourself, do other duties. But where do you, because I see you love explaining everything, can you explain to me the handshake in the context of our constitution? You know, if you want us to have a discussion about what is it that ails Kenyans. For example, I'll put off the table and tell you one of the biggest trouble that we continue to face as a country is people who never accept political loss in electoral contests. How is that covered in the handshake? Are we now going to find that at the end of the work that Building Bridges Initiative, if they conclude their work, will they finally tell us that now we will also set in place a framework where nobody will ever come back to the country and say, oh, I do not accept the results of that electoral contest. Not once, not twice, but thrice. And even perhaps in the next coming election, they're likely to do that. If that is the case, then I will sincerely. By the way, Otiende, let me tell you something. On Saturday, I was at a place called Sondu Market, and I'm sure this man Jacoyo knows it, and you know it. Sondu is on the boundary of Kericho, Nyamira, and Kisumu. Raila Odinga came there on Saturday, and it is actually at that place that he announced that he's joining the president on this trip to China. I'll tell you the things that the people were saying even while he was speaking. And I know that for one reason or the other, you may not want to conveniently speak about it. But the young people that you were addressing were questioning him about the things. Is it not you, Baba, who told us that this whole SGR is a scam? It is just a plan by Jubilee to loot money. Now you have joined them in milking us dry. If you, of all the people now, have joined the looters, what hope is left for us as a country? Therefore, I want to tell you that even amongst your people, and you're in Kisumu with you for legislative summit, if you took time to eat fish at Dunga and all those other places, ask Wananchi generally to help you understand what this handshake is about. They'll keep on saying, I think this is just a deal between the big people. Nothing has cascaded downwards for us as the people of Kisumu and where we come from. Therefore, do not try to mislead the public into not questioning what the end game in this handshake thing is. Those of us who are doing it, do it only for the good of our people and not to encourage the kind of things that you want us to believe. Finally, you know, Dibal, you asked what is in it for the rest of us. I don't know what is in it for me as a person, or for Jacoyo, but I know from history that each and every time Raila has made peace with his political adversaries, he has used it to enhance personal gain. When he made peace with Kanu, That is the time he was able to acquire Kisumu molasses plant. I don't know what he will be able to achieve eventually at the end of this presidential term, but I'm sure it will be something good for him.
Right. Agenda Molo, you want to react also from what actually was raised by Boni Halwale and Kamani Matangi.
Kamani Matangi and now Aaron Cheruiyot. And then I will want to comment about the utterances by the DP. But before I go there, I think it is dangerous to keep daring Jakoyo to produce evidence. Because while I will never make such utterances, that dare is also not very safe. Because if you dare him enough, he will tell you that the DP is on record as having admitted that he took land belonging to Muteshi, which he returned. That is called theft in English and in law. So that daring, if I were you, I would go slow on it. Having said that, let me start with where Boni Halwale left. You know, Boni, I would accept your advice and lecture, perhaps on a subject like bullfighting, but not on law. So when you now advise me on the law, you need to be very, very slow. First of all, my point was and remains, there is no such thing as leader of opposition in our current constitution. And if you want to contradict me, you don't pontificate. You take a copy of the constitution which you have, you show us the article that refers to leader of opposition. I dare you, you will not find it. Trying to contextualize things does not take that away. My point was, as Aaron Cheruiyot was saying, that Raila is the leader of opposition and now he's abandoning that position. There is no such thing. When then you try to explain it in the context of Article 108 and say leader of opposition means leader of minority in parliament, then you run into more problems because Raila is not in parliament. Because then you go on to quote Mbadi. So are you talking about Mbadi or Raila? You even run into more problems because there are two parliaments. There's the leader of minority in the National Assembly, John Mbadi, and leader of minority in the Senate, Senator Orengo. So it's even more confusing. So you are safer taking my advice than trying to give your wrongful advice. Secondly, when you dare about the issue of the deputy president not deputizing the president and say Article 150 is clear, and if we have any evidence, we should initiate impeachment proceedings. I agree. It is very clear. And in fact, I even agree that there are a lot of grounds which, in a proper constitutional context, would warrant impeachment of the deputy president, including the remarks he made recently about laws. But that is one process. That is a process about removal. I was not talking about removal. I was talking about conscience. Conscience is where you are elected to deputize somebody. You come to the conclusion that you are unable to deputize them. That does not require the process of removal. That requires introspection. You look into yourself and ask yourself, can I meaningfully continue in this position? I was daring your leader to look into his conscience as I dare you to look into yours. Kimani Wamatangi accuses the press in respect of the president's utterances, and he says it's mischief by the press. I think let's be fair to the press. What the president said was clear for all to see and clear for all to hear. The only thing, as I said earlier, is that everyone had been saying it, but the president had never said it. But I think he's been pushed to the corner where he's had to vent his frustrations in public because he's probably expressed them in private enough and they're not being heeded. The handshake, Kimani Wamatangi says, the handshake is okay if it keeps to its original intention. And this is where Aaron Cheruiyot comes and asks about what he's calling the philosophical basis of the handshake. Let's make 2 points there. First of all, the handshake was between Raila and Uhuru. If you are not part of the handshake, why would you want to be explained to what the handshake was about? If you want to shake someone else's hand, you are free to also go and shake those hands. Like Boni Halwale has now shaken the hand of DP Ruto, which is okay. We are not asking him so far what was in it for him for that handshake. That is their business. But here, here, the handshake was explained, and its context was explained in the subsequent BBI initiative. Aaron Cheriot then asks me, and I want to dare you, Aaron, just two things. One, Aaron says that some of us come from a context where we cannot exercise independence of thought. I mean, I believe you're entitled to your opinion, but I can tell you, Aaron, that I exercise my independent thought all the time. Where I agree with my party and my party leader, I say so. Where I do not agree, I also say so. And you know there are many examples of when I have not agreed. But it's very interesting when you live in a glass house and you start throwing stones. Because Aaron Cheriot, what independence of mind would you have outside the thinking of DP Ruto? If there is, you've never shown it. So stop accusing others of not having any independence of mind. But more importantly, and that's my last point on this, you ask what is the context of the handshake in the Constitution. You know, when it's very easy to attack the handshake because it's easy to forget where we were. The context of the handshake is that there was a stolen election. And that election was confirmed stolen by the Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court asked that the servers be opened to verify, those servers were never opened. To date, you're on record as saying you'll bring the results. You've never brought them to date because it would have shown Raila won the election.
Yes,
Then, subsequently, fresh elections were ordered. The IEBC did not do anything to correct the mistakes of the first election. And as a result, those of us in NASA said we will not go for that election. Therefore, one side of the country held what it believed was its own election. That was completely illegitimate. At that point, therefore, we were in a situation where Uhuru had been sworn in as a result of those other elections held by a section of the country, and we had sworn in Raila because we believed he rightfully won the election. The country was headed down to a crisis, and that is the truth. The political and constitutional context was to seize those hostilities, to step back and say, okay, perhaps we are bigger than debating who won and who didn't win. Perhaps we need to conserve this country. Perhaps we need to look into the future of this country so that as we look into why have we never got proper elections, and that's why it's one of them, we ask ourselves, how can we move forward together? One last thing, Dibal. I am hoping we will now come to what is covered on page 5 of the Nation, the utterances by the DP attacking the Luo community, so that we can share our thoughts on this.
Yeah, we will get to that, but let's just hear from Boni Khalole before we get to that momentarily. Boni Khalole, your reaction, or is it Kimano Matangi? You have to.
It's
Boni,
me,
please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think since my brother was responding to the issues I'd raised, we will let it rest there because we can't argue endlessly. The viewers have heard what I've had to say, and they are sufficiently intelligent. The only thing I want to request you, my brother, and maybe this with uttermost respect, your attempts to say that I should give you space when commenting on matters law, that I should only be limited to matters bullfighting, with utmost respect, I kindly request you to remember that I'm a doctor of medicine. And if you thought the profession of medicine is inferior to some other profession, then ask yourself, my dear brother, ask yourself, why is it that the 314 children in Kenya who got A's, only 6 of them have applied for law, but a plethora of them are dying to go to medical school? Ask yourself that, and you know the difference, and you know why. The last point I want to make on this issue is an attempt by my brother to lie to Kenyans that the reason for the handshake was the election. The election, we were given an opportunity by the Supreme Court to go back and reaffirm that we won the election. And it is at this point that I started parting ways with James Orengo and Raila Odinga. Because whereas the rest of us in NASA, the top notch, were agreed that we are preparing to go for the repeat election on the 26th, we go for a rally, Dibal,
Yes.
at Uhuru Park, And out of the blues, Orengo rises on instructions of Raila, and they declare that we shall not participate in the election without reference to Kalonzo, to Mudavadi, to Wetangula, and those of us who are on the decision-making panel. I realize these are people you cannot work with unless you are a sycophant. So we refused to take the opportunity to go and reconfirm that we had won the election that had been cast on the 8th. So when you say that the handshake was responding to the election which was stolen on 8th, the election of 8th was not there. It was annulled. That result was annulled completely. You should be saying you are responding to probably the fear or the deal by your team to deny us an opportunity to participate in the election the second time round. Thank you very much.
All right, Kimani Mwatangi.
Yes, Dibal, not many issues, a few, because, you know, Otiende Amolo has spoken a lot this morning. and you have given him a lot of time. And he has said so many things. But you know, one thing, Dibal and every viewer will agree with me, is that we have always, and I've been the one in the forefront of always recognizing and appreciating that this man at least takes his time to refer to the Constitution, and that is why he's a friend to it. He always have it. But that does not give him the leeway, and we will not allow you, Otiende Amolo, with whatever decorations you have around the Constitution and the law, to come here and try to rubbish and to feed us with a concocted version of an interpretation of the law, just because you think that we fear you are going to refer to the Constitution again. And you know, I've been hearing you telling at Bonnie Harold, I dare you. Yes. I will dare you also. I will dare you. Because you have to give us, I mean, be true to the true interpretation of the law. Don't feed us with one version that you want us to believe in just because we have given you that latitude. You know, when you dare, Bonnie Halwale, that to open the Constitution and refer to the page that refers to the leader of opposition, yes, you're being untruthful yourself to the extent of the interpretation of what the law is. You see, between the two versions of government that we have had, from the parliamentary system to the presidential system we have right now, when we had the parliamentary system and we had a leader of opposition, and now we have a minority and a majority side of government, that does not mean at all, and you are part of the team that wrote the Constitution, that does not mean at all any change in the functions or in the intent of the law. And the leadership or the road that led us to go into that parliament. And that is why the Constitution refers to as the leader of minority being the one who leads the minority party in parliament. Those are the two parties that contested. And when you're contesting in an election, you're contesting on different ideologies. So one forms government, the other is a representative of the other ideology, and so you are supposed to be playing the role of the opposition. Secondly, you cannot at all try to run away from one fact, that Raila Amolo Odinga, having been the presidential candidate of that side, now that is the minority, is not indeed the de facto leader of the opposition.
De facto.
Yes, yes. Those you can't run away from. So whether he referred to those, and what you would have just been telling him is that you just want to see, you know, the writing and the words, but not what he meant. What he meant is truly correct. Now, you see, then you tried to spin around my words when I said that the president spoke and then he was quoted by the press, and I was very specific in my reference. I referred to when he spoke, then the press the following day wrote in their headlines that he has answered the DP directly. Those were not, that was not so. He was making his remarks and he was not answering the DP. And I went along way even explaining how the handshake was invented by human beings. And lastly, it is on this story, Otiende Amolo, that we cannot agree on with you. When you start by quoting the process and the law, including the Supreme Court, which you participated in during the election contest. You wore robes and you stood before the Chief Justice. You participated. How can you, in the first place, go to court, seek redress from court, then after that, and after quoting it now, then you show the utmost and highest disrespect of that same process? Because you went to it believing you get justice. You got justice your way. It went back to the same court after you lost. And remember, there is a pronouncement by the Supreme Court, which you are an adherent of, and which you are an agent of, and you are an officer of. And the Supreme Court declared that the election is a closed matter, and it has been won. So you can't come here and again try to feed us another story, Otiende Amolo, with due respect, that it is arising from that contestation that we had the handshake. Yes, we had the handshake because there has been conflicting ideologies in politics that has led to confrontation. And what we need to do and what needed to be done was to moderate and tell the country that there is an in-between period after the end of an election where we need to work together.
Thank you.
And at the end of that working together, then we can go again to another context.
Let's say from
So your interpretation of the law, the Otiende Amolo,
is a bit skewed.
It's only skewed to the extent that it fits the version that he wants to feed for that day, not all the time. Because again, when there's a new time, you see again, he'll open another chapter of the Constitution and read it and give us a new interpretation. So can we let you know that from now onwards, you had better start practicing what you call in your own language, their fidelity
to the law.
But you know, Debal, it's an interesting talk because I think it has degenerated into what Otiende said, which nobody has answered. Otiende said, you show them which article of the law that calls Raila the opposition leader or calls anybody opposition leader.
But Raila's name is not written in the Constitution. Please, you guys.
No, but you are the one who brought it. You are the one.
Mediocrity.
You may call us the mediocre ones. But a question is a question. He asked, which part of our Constitution? And you have not answered. Adwale, you should be very happy this morning that Wamatangis today has joined your team publicly. You should be very happy. You should back that one in.
We know where it belongs.
Just to understand, what I've said is very clear. We cannot allow him to rubbish our minds.
No,
it's very simple.
You even call the handshakers mere human beings. In other words, you're calling Uhuru and Raila mere human beings. And I don't...
Aren't they?
No, they are not.
What are they? Gods. They are gods.
Not mere. Not mere.
Ordinary then.
Raila and Uhuru are not ordinary human beings. But let me say this.
What are they?
They are human beings
Just
with
like you and
political leaders. We see what we are doing even as you...
Could we get just to the meat of the issue? I think those are non-issues.
Okay.
Please,
It's an issue.
No. Just let him finish. Can he just have his head and just finish?
Yeah.
Please.
These guys,
Is this panel a church of worship?
No. It's not. No, but you've had your time, haven't you?
Huh?
Let him have his time as well.
Okay.
Yes,
It's okay. He's entitled to his name, but I don't know why you picked that one. That I even. Of course, they're human beings, but I don't even know why you got that one. So I mean, but
Let's
could
not
you
just derail
allow
from the main
Jacoyo
topic.
to
Please, yes.
allow Jacoyo to confirm that he's present?
No, because you keep saying
In this
how late I was.
discussion.
I'm always here earlier than you.
Yeah.
In fact, you went for a whole month without coming here.
Could you just concentrate on the issues, please?
Yes, but what I'm saying, Debal, I think it's a good show, but I don't think Otiende is wrong to justify the handshake in terms of what could have gone wrong in this country. I think it is good for us to be good order, for us to say that the country was going to the dogs. It's good to appreciate that.
I don't know. Nobody said we agreed. Yes, it was.
Yes, but so why are we in this charade of trying to say that it is because of the handshake that Jubilee is crumbling without saying it? So that's where you all are. In fact, it is even wrong for Boni Halwale to call over team or where Otiende supposedly belongs, but Halwale was in the center of that team. Bonnie Halwale was in the center of that team. When we question, like my good senator here keeps saying, that we keep throwing words of a thief. You know, I would be very comfortable if you called all these people thieves. But to try to say any one of them is clean, and that it is wrong of us or the country to imagine that what we are trying to correct with the fight on corruption, going through the handshake, is wrong. I think that is not good of politicians. This guy is a senator. You are a senator, Bwana Matangi.
Yes.
We pay you money using our tax money.
We paid you longer.
Yes, it's okay. But that's why,
Yeah.
even late or early, we come to keep pushing forward that it is not right that we look up to criminals to leaders without going through the process. And I want to agree with Aaron that nobody has done so. It will come, Aaron. Don't worry. Don't worry. You know, I'd rather be a railway breaker. I'd rather be a friendship breaker than a murderer. I'd rather be that.
Thank you.
That'd be a murderer.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
We have reactions on social media that we have KNS Hillary Arab Ngasura saying that Otiende Amolo, don't lie on national TV. DP didn't attack Luos. He told the truth about the goons who uprooted the railway stretch at Kibera. Unless you want to tell us the whole community did that, let's not lie. Be honest, please. And he says also, Dibalane, don't allow them to say these things. Also, we have Obunga Apamo saying this handshake is good for political temperature, but very fierce on Mwananchi. Honestly, Mwananchi is on their own. Yeah. That is what Obunga Apamo thinks. Also, we have Trini Kante saying Boni should stop belittling other leaders simply because he got marks to make him medical doctor. He was deregistered recently by medical board for breaching rules, that he is a poor leader and an awkward example. I wanted just to clarify this because this has been on the social media. Is it true?
Yes.
Were you deregistered?
I think I want to join that young man. Does he want me to apologize for my good marks?
Were you deregistered?
Two, the point he has raised about deregistration. What is called, you pay money to practice every year, just like in law and all decent professions. You pay a fee. When you have delayed to pay, they don't allow you to say you are practicing. Until you have paid that fee. Sometimes we pay in arrears and whatnot. So when I'll have time, I'll go to Hurlingham and pay the little arrears of 2 years.
So you are deregistered?
No.
For non-payment?
There is nothing like the registration. Yeah. So it's a question of just paying the arrears. I remember the last time I paid the arrears at one time.
Why haven't you been paying your arrears? You're full of money nowadays. Yeah?
In fact,
we are just talking for you, Boni Halwale.
Let me tell you.
Boni is not practicing medicine.
Let me tell you.
I mean,
I am practicing
I think give
on a full-time basis.
He has answered.
Yes.
Give Aaron his turn.
No, let him finish. Let him finish.
We will revisit
Otiende,
that
don't
subject.
get angry. Otiende, don't get angry by the revelation.
I will come back to it.
So can I?
Just finish.
Can I? So it doesn't mean that when you are practicing politics on a full-time basis, you are not offering leadership. In fact, that tweet on social media, I had an opportunity to respond to it yesterday. And you know what I told them? That I have no regrets for not practicing medicine now, for the good reason that by dint of practicing politics, I have been of greater use, for example, in a Kolomani, than having sat in a clinic or a hospital in a Kolomani conducting deliveries. Why? Because while you're conducting deliveries, I wouldn't have done what I've done in a Kolomani, i.e. build 2 hospitals, 1 in each division, and build 2 health centers in each ward. This might look mean until you go to Bondo. Bondo Sub-County Hospital does not even look like a health center in a Kolomani. And yet, the residents of that area have been prime ministers, they have been forcing, and so on and so forth. So there is more, there's more to benefit when you withdraw from practicing medicine and you participate on the policy making. You bring more.
Okay. Let's say from Aaron Cheriot.
You know, Dibal, there are about 2 or 3 things that I want to quickly respond to in line with what Otiende said. One, I want to give Otiende and Jakoyo an assignment. And I want to humbly request that they report back to this panel next week. When you later on in the day meet Raila Odinga, please ask him and inform us next week, what is it that the young people at Sondu told him on Saturday? Then report us back. Because you know, when he arrived there are 2 things that I noticed. One was, first of all, the lack of the usual enthusiasm when you receive a leader of that stature by the people that were at Sondu. Then secondly, there's something they kept on, the minute Raila said that he's going to China with President Uhuru Kenyatta, they kept on holding, they held their heads and said, oh, Mayo, one Kendwa. I don't know.
What does that mean?
I don't know what it means, but it can tell you it's something similar to, I think, either we are alone or we are finished, something like that. Just find out for us and report back to this panel. And now, my good friend Otiende, in your protest against that speech that I've seen on social media, an attempt to try and, of course, spin the remarks by Deputy President that were clearly targeted at an individual, but for one reason or the other, because I understand why you want to do this, you want to lump up the whole Luo community and say what the Deputy President was speaking about was against an entire community. I want to challenge you, Otiende. Please produce that clip and show us where in that particular clip does the Deputy President refer to Luos. Because to me, when I heard, because one, it was a figure of speech that he was addressing someone. But even if it was to be assumed that because he used plural tense when speaking to it, then where is it that he mentioned that the people that he's talking about who are uprooting railways, who are breaking friendships, who are breaking political parties are Luos? He never said anything of the sort. Therefore, do not try to propagate lies on this panel. And you know, Otiende, you have to be consistent. That is one thing we have always agreed on this panel. Half-truths do not help a brand as good as yours. When you tell this panel this morning that the Supreme Court annulled the August 8th election, why are you forgetting to remind them that it is the same Supreme Court that affirmed the October 26th election and told the country that President Uhuru Kenyatta was elected in accordance with the law? Why do you want to conveniently just tell half-truths? Therefore, it is not a good practice. And in one final thing, you know, the handshake will make more sense to me if we started addressing certain bad habits that we have within our country, Dibal. In 2016, the US went for election. And you know what happened? It has been subject to various commissions of inquiry and parliamentary inquiries at both levels of the legislature in the US. And you know how many people it has consumed. But Hillary Clinton never mobilized her supporters to go to the streets and do the kind of things that Otiende was referring to and telling us that the country was at the brink of, you know, precipice, that we are about to break down as a society. When shall we begin to teach our people 2 things? One, the culture of tolerance, that knowing that I may not necessarily agree with you, but I need not harm you because you hold different political views to mine. And also, secondly, to know that whenever you go to a contest, you must always, as a true Democrat, accept the results, then seek other retributory measures other than what Otiende is advocating for on this panel. Therefore, if we really want to move this country forward, that ought to be one of the TORs of these building bridges that we continue to sing about on each and every morning, that we must teach our people to accept political defeat also.
Right. Otiende Amolo, you want to respond? Then we also just look at the price of unga that is skyrocketing right now.
Thank you.
Briefly.
First of all, when we arrive here every morning, we are given a notepad, a pen, and a copy of the Constitution. Everyone has an equal opportunity to refer to that Constitution. If you are either too lazy if you are too lazy to look at that constitution and refer to it, Senator Matangi, you cannot fault me for finding the appropriate provisions. That is not my fault.
Conveniently.
That should surely be your fault. And I will allow you, Dr. Halwale and Aaron Cheruiyot, the whole week to go and look at this constitution. And if you find anywhere with the words leader of opposition, please let it be the first subject next week. Because I am telling you, you won't find it. That's all I was telling you. Pontificating about system of government and all that does not help you in that answer. Because when you do, Senator Matangi, and that's the danger, that you then end up misstating things. We never had a parliamentary system. Our private system was a hybrid. It was never parliamentary. But I kind of understand where you are. You know, when Jacoy was talking and he was repeating to you what you said, then you are interjecting, saying, I didn't quite say that. Because you are still Kieletanga. You have not got and the danger of coming out clearly on either side pains you so much. So for me, I understand where you are and I sympathize. Boni Halwale. Boni says he stopped practicing medicine, he's practicing politics. And I agree. Because he's practicing so much politics that he has time to donate 2 million in a church, but not to pay 10,000 for his practicing certificate. Now, if I would have thought that an experienced politician like you would take time to do both. I am a lawyer. I am not the registered because I pay my dues, despite what else I do in politics. So perhaps I would advise you, with my greenhornness in politics, that even as much as you go deep into politics, you should also remember to make good your profession. But which then begs the question, when I said that you can advise me on bullfighting but not on law, then you quickly ran to your practicing of medicine. And yet, you're not practicing medicine. So you should have stuck to where you are. Because if you're not practicing medicine, then politically it must be that bullfighting and what I would now call political hand-hawking. And then at least we can meet decently, without going to the profession and invoking the question of lawyers and non-lawyers and all that. Let me come to Aaron Cheruiyot. Aaron Cheruiyot, you know, it is so dangerous, and that's why I will not respond to you. I will not even take your advice to consult Raila on this. That you want to come to national television and persuade the listeners and the viewers that you attended a political rally in which Raila was speaking. Really, Aaron Cheruiyot? You and I know you would never be anywhere near there. You know very well, because you are speaking in the first person that you are there,
yes.
What people are saying. You know you'd never go anywhere within a kilometer of where Raila. Wait, please, Aaron.
Let him finish.
But he's misleading.
Aaron,
I didn't say
please.
what he's saying.
You'll get your time.
Please.
I didn't attend
Just a
Raila's
moment,
rally.
you'll get your
Please, Otiende. Don't mislead, man. I didn't say that.
No, Aaron, have your peace, please.
But
It is okay.
but don't
Go
lie.
easy. You cannot mislead us that you are even within a kilometer of a rally that Raila was in. You know this. With the attacks you always have on Raila, you know that within 500 meters, you would probably have to make a 100-meter dash. And you know that. So pretending to tell us I was there, I don't know, some of what the people are saying is utter nonsense. Let us come to the tweet that was said about DP Ruto.
One can do.
And what Aaron has just dared me. Let me. You'll have your time, Matangi. About whether the deputy president utterances was about laws. Aaron, the clearest admission is on The Nation. Look at The Nation, page 5. Look at the defense to the DP statement by his spokesman. His own spokesman says that this was quoted out of context. Now, there's no quotation. If that clip is played, it's as clear as day, and I'll come back to it. But then he continues to say that unless you are telling me being Luo is equivalent to uprooting the railways. He is admitting that it was about being Luo. It was about Luos.
No. What does that statement mean?
The word Luo has been stated by the deputy president spokesperson.
Yes.
Don't you see that?
He has said
so,
unless. What is the meaning of the word unless?
Aaron, easy.
Why
You'll have
lie,
your
man?
time. You'll have your time.
Why is he lying?
The clear context, and you cannot abuse our intelligence.
See.
The very clear words of the DP were targeting the ethnic community known as Luos.
How?
And he said started by saying hawa watu tunawajua.
But
hawa watu
how is that
okay,
wrong?
let me explain.
Let me
please.
just intervene here.
Let me just explain. Because you're asking how and you keep interjecting.
Yeah.
Start by saying hawa watu tunawajua. Kama wabomoi nyumba, wanabomoa reli. Kama wabomoi reli, wanabomoa wanatenganisha marafiki. Hawa watu mnawajua. The first thing is, it was plural. It was not individual. So you cannot say that the deputy president was referring to one person, even if it's about Raila. It was referring to people and it's a community. Hawa watu. The second thing is, he used very dangerous words. When you accuse a community of destroying houses, of destroying railways, and things like that, and then finishes by saying, why should we tolerate them? Why should we tolerate them? As I've said on page 5 of the Nation, those words actually amount to hate speech, they amount to ethnic incitement, and they amount to advocacy of hatred. And what ought to happen is that the DP ought to be summoned by NCIC, and he ought to be made to answer to those words. There's a bad tendency by NCIC nowadays of summoning people, then they go there, then they apologize, and then they're left to go. Under the law, hate speech is an offense. There is no provision for an apology as a defense to hate speech.
But
if you've committed an offense, Aaron,
You haven't answered how.
Aaron,
Please tell us how.
we'll come back to
Otiende
it.
Amolo,
Yes.
we don't, even currently with the constitution, we struggle on what hate speech is really is. There's no ironclad definition on hate speech. How will you classify that as a hate speech? Because even the constitution is not very limpid with that.
In my view, and hate speech, by the way, has been defined by the courts, not in the constitution, but in the context of the NCIC Act.
Yes, NCAC Act, we don't have it, yeah?
No, we don't have it, but
Yes.
it's been defined. So I'm telling you that it has been defined. In my view, and that can be tested, in my view, referring to a whole community as people who demolish houses, who uproot railways, and who should not be tolerated is hate speech, in my view. Whether that view will be taken by the court or not is a different matter. That would be the result of a criminal prosecution. That is my view.
Okay.
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 Can I just ask a quick one? And because I was
Halwale.
just asking
It's
a
all-
question because you see the
It's
way
Halwale's time.
you see the way Jakoyo, you see the way Jakoyo is mollified around
We are stuck for time.
and what I just wanted to understand is whether Otiende Amolo is offering pro bono services to represent Jakoyo with you.
What? How? Well, even bothers you, the answer is yes. If it bothers you, the answer is yes.
Okay, Wamatanga, let's hear from Boni Halwale, please, because we're stuck for time, sir.
Very quickly, I want to thank my brother Molo for giving us a whole week, to show in the Constitution a reference to leader of the opposition. So that I don't waste any more time, I also want to give you not a week, but a month to show us in the Constitution where it defines the handshake. The next point I want to make is on the very grave matters that my brother is raising on the issue of hate speech. You know, the truth is this. There's an attempt by some Luo leaders to mobilize their community, deliberate ethnic mobilization, so as to counter the growing Ruto factor in Nyanza. They are not comfortable that in Migori, the young man, what was his name again? Eddie almost became senator when he was getting support from Ruto. They are not happy that in Ugenya, Deputy Chieng, when he was getting support from the deputy president, actually won the election. So they are desperately...
But David, he has been on this panel, he's actually denied that he got support from Jubilee. Yeah. So I don't know where you're getting that from.
Ask some of us.
We ask some of you.
Yes.
Then give us the information. How was he supported?
Yeah, so that I don't waste my time, let me conclude that point. Then I come
but
to
you can
that.
answer that as well.
But
Now,
you didn't ask Otiende to explain
I explained.
that statement
right,
where
we are
it's
stuck for
being
time.
done.
My goodness.
So be fair to your panelists.
All right.
I did.
All right.
I showed
You never.
Just a moment. Okay,
So-
Boni Halwale, just...
I want to ask my brother Otiende, in trying to interpret that speech by the deputy president, which was being made in Swahili, for you to go and retrace your steps in your lessons in Kiswahili when you are either in high school or primary school. My brother, The deputy president said, hawa watu. And in Swahili, hawa watu does not mean in any way,
A community.
can I? Does not in any way mean hawa watu wote. Ama watu hawa wote.
Okay.
No.
Whichever.
Yeah, it doesn't mean there are two worlds apart.
wonder who should study Swahili.
Okay.
What
Because it is you.
there is hawa watu.
Should really study Swahili.
There is hawa watu na kuna watu hawa wote. There's a total difference.
kuna hawa
It is a
watu.
fact.
Thank you. Thank you,
It is
Boni
a
Halwale.
fact. It is a fact of history. It is recorded that indeed the red line was uprooted.
Thank you.
By
All right.
goons.
Okay, we need to wind
It's a
up.
fact.
Well, Boni
And those
Halwale-
are watu.
Boni
It did
Halwale,
not mean how.
thank you.
If there is somebody who should apologize to
No,
Luos,
you
it is Otiende
you had
for
Okay,
linking
guys.
them to railway
Thank you.
uprooters.
Just let's
You
see
know the rules and apology.
Jacob video.
You know, Deval,
Briefly, we are closing. We
this is
prepare
not
closing
even
statements.
interesting anymore. But I think today the star of the show is not Boni, because Boni is star has been going downwards. If you are, what you're saying, William said about our people, that you should condemn him. If you really love him, you have just said at the beginning of the show
Thank you.
that you are his advisor. If he's calling us to the railway uprooters, really, I think that's unfortunate, because I think
hawa wote.
I'd rather be uprooting the railway than be a thief of Muteshi's land
Just be a good
or
man.
Langata primary school.
Excuse me, Jacob video.
Be a good
Please,
man.
please,
Just
please.
Don't be any of those.
No,
Don't derail off to things that we don't have evidence of, and you know, also mentioning names.
No, the
Please, we are strapped for time.
Why do you have to choose?
Just make
No,
your statement
But
also.
why are
close,
you
so.
letting them say everything, and you can't let us talk? You know, it's like our show is becoming a show of sanitizing William Samoei. I thought this is people
But this is
and
not
politics.
sure about William
Has
Samoei.
nothing to do with
No, but that's what you're saying. You're saying I don't have evidence and the matters are in court and he has paid. Which other evidence do
And
you...
if matters are in court, subdue is rule. Of
No,
course.
he has
Just-
even paid Muteshi.
We don't have evidence.
He
for that.
admitted
That
that.
In
is-
court, he paid him through court.
That much is clear.
Okay.
It's so clear. So what I'm just saying, can we just have sanity on our show where we comment fairly on issues and we don't make it too personal?
Thank you.
Because when they make it personal, we shall make it personal.
Thank you. All right. 10 seconds for each of you as we wind up the show. Let's begin with Otiende Amolo. Briefly. 10 seconds.
I think that as we go through all these political formations, and you remember several weeks back I'd said that the political tectonic plates were going to shift, you can see they are shifting. And as they are shifting, there's a dangerous response by a section of leaders led by the Deputy President of starting to utter very sharp and divisive words. I think that should cease. And instead of pontificating and trying to explain what Swahili means, we are not talking about this community, that's utter nonsense.
Thank you.
We should just cease that kind of talk.
Right. Thank you. Aaron Chiriot. Briefly. 10 seconds.
From this show, I will go to a bookshop and buy Otiende Amolo a kamusi. He clearly,
I don't
Kiswahili.
need it. I
He
don't
clearly needs it,
I do
so
not
that
need
he
it.
knows that Hawa Watu can never mean any community.
Thank you.
That's what we should argue.
Thank you. All right. Does also Boni Halwale need masomo ya Gumbaru for Kiswahili? That would be another question. Yeah. Boni Halwale, your closing statement.
I think now that the president and the former prime minister are headed to China for yet another loan on SGR, I want to call upon the partner states of the East African community to come together through their leadership to develop the SGR project as an East African community project, so that the route is meant to take goods
Thank you.
and services to the capitals of the partner states, so that the SGR can make economic sense
Thank you. Right.
and pay for itself.
Thank you.
No,
Kimano
thank you,
Tani, finally.
Dibala. I think I just want to conclude by saying that I believe that in the midst of all this political talk and the heat, we must remember that we still owe it to our people, to Kenyans, to deliver services, to make sure that we have remained true to what we've said to Kenyans. I've always insisted on this, that we make promises. We made promises as Jubilee when we got elected. Twice on the belief by Kenyans that we are going to live true to what we said. We have to focus and make sure that we deliver. And as Otendi Amolo and Jacoyo Midio wonder, where am I? I am always there to ensure that we live and stay true to what we say.
Thank you.
So whether that term means tangi, you call it what? Tangi tangi, or you call it kiele tangi, or Team Kenya, or whatever. But the point is this: that we have to make sure that we remain true to the things we say as leaders. It is it's very unkind of politicians to have this.
Your 10 seconds are done,
always that you get away with everything. That you promise this, you don't deliver, then you get away with it.
Thank you so much. And I think today it's been a low blow for all of you, getting really personal. All right, but nonetheless, we thank you, and I hope next week now we'll delve into matters. Of course, also we know that in 10 days, that price of unga flour will go up, and of course, many Kenyans will get affected by that. We shall be discussing a raft of issues also next week as far as the politics are concerned. Thank you so much also for your reactions on social media. We appreciate also you driving the show with us. My name is Dibala.